Time for some Empire State politics. Top stories making for top debates from Albany to our panel. First up, Governor Andrew Cuomo smacking back on complaints that he's tampering with the commission he appointed to investigate corruption in Albany. The U.S. Attorney has criticized Cuomo's dissolving of the so-called Moreland Commission, though he is not, as some have reported, formally investigating. Yesterday, in an interview with the editorial board of Crain's New York Business, Cuomo defended his decision in a rather personal way. Quote, "The Moreland Commission was my commission," he said. "It's my commission, my subpoena power, my Moreland Commission. I can appoint it, I can disband it. I appoint you, I can unappoint you tomorrow. So interference," he continued, "it's my commission. I can't interfere with it because it is mine, controlled by me." Reaction? That's a pretty firm quote from a governor from what had been a little bit of criticism. You're smiling. I'll let you go.
I'll jump in because
please, I
feel
want to hear this.
Look, I don't really care what he said to Crain's. What I care about is what happened. He set up a commission to investigate wrongdoing by legislators and to change the temperament in Albany. One, they did issue subpoenas for some things, as I have said before, primarily on outside income, which affected a very small number of legislators, and in fact tarnished all of us rather unfairly in my book. But that being said, they were looking into a small number. They were going to resolve those issues with respect to the subpoena. Secondly, we adopted reforms in the budget that were directly responsive to his establishing this commission and putting some teeth in it. He put us up a little bit against the wall and said, "You've got to do some reforms." There are significant reforms in the bill we passed. Those are absolutely move the needle down the road, move the needle, and we are going to end up in a better place. That's why he set it up. He got the results he needed, and disbanding it makes perfect sense. It's not wise to have all these people investigating all these other people, many for reasons that really I'm not sure were very valid to begin with.
But nobody really thinks that there's no more corruption in Albany now, and there's no more bad actors in Albany.
But let me just remind you, there always was corruption, and there always was enforcement available. The AG, the DA in Albany County, the DA in New York County, the DA in Westchester County, jurisdiction exists. It didn't take the Moreland Commission to come up with jurisdiction. There's criminal laws and there's enforcement power.
Well, let me say, look, the governor sets up a Moreland Commission, the commission of which the appointees themselves, which have had issues, whether they were late filing their campaign finance reports or had conflicts, or one of the members, actually the co-chair, had left. It had issues from the beginning. And then what do you get out of the commission before it's disbanded? A very watered down and weak campaign finance bill that only applies to the controller's office and the U.S. the state, the Napoli's office. And the controller has said, "Listen, this is terrible. This is 6 months to go before the election."
He's the only one who has to follow
and he's the only one who has to do it. And this is what's come out. Nothing, no indictments, no significant changes, no real fight on corruption. The Moreland Commission was a joke, and it's all political. Look, if I'm a legislator, no offense, Assemblywoman, I don't want the Moreland Commission sniffing up my tail, making trouble for me, and subpoenaing my records about what I do privately. I would want to get rid of them as soon as possible, and that's what happened. Politics was played. In order for the governor to get what he wanted, he disbanded the commission.
Can I just remind you, there was a very small you're making it like they were investigating everyone. There was a very few number, a small number that had outside incomes greater than $30,000. That's the sole group.
But the governor did use this for his political advantage. I mean, he got a certain amount of leverage on the budget deal, and then he
stirred the pot about ethics reform, about campaign finance reform. I think we should have gone much further on campaign finance reform. I always go further on ethics reform, but he got some results. And in return, he disbanded something that primarily was looking at a very small number of legislators where there's independent enforcement authority already there.
Want to move on to another topic where there's more criticism for the governor on his reluctance to call special elections to fill vacancies in Albany. Former state senator, now Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams, complaining that his seat in the Senate is still vacant, as are 4 Brooklyn Assembly seats. Adams says residents are missing out on key services that elected officials provide, and he criticized Cuomo's rationale for election delays that they're too expensive. This is not just a Brooklyn problem. Right now there are 2 open seats in the state Senate, 10 in the state Assembly, with special elections currently scheduled for exactly none of them. There are services, speak to that if you will, the services that Senator Adams or Borough President Adams was saying that elected officials provide. There are some things.
Oh, absolutely, and I think really the right time would have been prior to the budget. As someone who came in March, you know, in the budget process is the opportunity to really advocate for your district. And those districts that are unrepresented, in my opinion, do lose out by not having a representative, particularly during the budget process. Because whether it's a small program, whether it's a prison in your district, whether it's schools in your district, you know, you're there and you're a pit bull for your district. And without someone representing that district, I think it is very unfortunate for the constituents. I think he should have called them sooner.
Why would he wait? Why is he waiting?
Well, why would he go forward? He has an election year. He has, I think, a very strong Republican opponent. Anything can happen in politics. This does not concern the government. Listen, I agree. I think the people, as a former representative myself, people need representation, and they should have it. But for the governor, this is not at the top of his list. Passing the tax cap was the top of his list. Economic development upstate, those are more important to him than filling the assembly seats, which are, or in Senate seats, which is 6 months away, and you can wait for that election.
The governor does have priorities, but that quote, and I know the Assemblywoman will disagree with this, but that quote that he made to Cranes regarding the Moreland Commission, this governor has to be very careful. The rap on Governor Cuomo is that he does not play well with others. And that type of quote says, it's mine, I'm taking my marbles and I'm going home. An investigatory commission does not work that way. You may have appointed it, but it's not, and you have the right to appoint and disband it, but it's not yours.
And you can interfere with it and call it autonomous.
And that's the point that Rob Astorino, his likely Republican opponent,
And that's
was
the
making in a
problem.
video.
He's giving Astorino ammunition.
But
if the governor's quiet, Astorino has nothing to run on.
But he was also not fulfilling his campaign promise to fight corruption in Albany.
Well, I disagree on both those counts, but I would say this. You know what voters say? You guys are talking inside baseball, whether people like him.
That's true.
They don't have to like him. And they're happy about property tax freeze. They're happy about additional funding for their school. They're glad the Tappan Zee Bridge is finally getting built.
Fair points, all of them. But if voters don't like a politician, it's hard to win an election if they don't like you. And if they like you, it's much, much easier to win. I mean,
The governor is doing well in his polling. Yes, it's complicated by having those, there are some who don't like him personally who are active in politics. At the end of the day, I deal with ordinary voters who are of many different stripes in terms of politics. On the whole, he's extremely popular across the board because he gets stuff done.
But each time the Siena poll recently came out again, and Rob, each time the poll is coming out, has been improving, and that gap has been closing.
So.
It's still
He's running for governor.
But and it's still early, but it means he's making progress, though, and that's a good sign. And that's not very good for the government.
No one ever heard of him.
But Republicans shouldn't really point out that poll.
I mean, 20 points?
Because
6 months
I thought
ago?
it was 30 points, and
30.
people still don't know who Mr. Astorino is.
70% of them don't know.
So
who
I
it is.
mean, so that's confirming an uphill battle.
I just want to jump to one more quick topic because we just got paperwork filed this week from 22 companies. They paid $1 million for the rights to build 4 new casinos in New York State. Most of them want to have it happen in the Hudson Valley region. That's Orange, Sullivan, and Ulster counties. That happens to be the closest region to a region that's already being served by 2 racinos, the City and Yonkers. You've got Aqueduct and you've got Empire Raceway at Yonkers. Assemblywoman, we've talked about Yonkers before and Empire City. I know you're a big advocate for them, or that you think they've been a benefit to Yonkers. Should they be able to expand so that they can have full table and full casino gaming? Is that only fair if you're going to put somebody just down the road?
Well, I think 2 things. One, the law doesn't authorize them at this point. They're out of the picture until we do the others. But here's the point. When we passed the legislation to allow these Catskill casinos to go forward, it was not intended that they would be so close to New York City, to Yonkers and Aqueduct. The point was to bring additional revenues, not to take away.
They're talking about maybe one in Harriman,
Well,
which
yeah,
is right by the
and that's what I'm
shopping
saying.
mall.
That was never the intention of the statute, to have one in Harriman. The point was where the economy is really suffering, north of there, is where there should have been one. The reason that Sullivan County was in it was that you wanted the counties around to share the revenue. But the point was not to build a casino, an hour and a half from Yonkers and 2 hours from Aqueduct, and really drive up places that drive not only economic development money, education money for the whole state.
This thing's expected to move very fast. Are you confident that at the end of the day, the placement will be right? The placement will be in places like the Catskills that need it, and not in a place like Harriman?
Well, I just want to say that it's important to differentiate these counties. The statute did authorize Sullivan, but I am hopeful that this commission will elect to put the casinos north of there and not allow it in Harriman. I personally think it would be very bad for us.
Last word quickly.
Yeah, look, casinos are not the way to improve economic development. It's been proven all over the country. If you want to improve economic development upstate in New York, fracking is the answer.
Oh,
you just need to learn how to become a better poker player. Up next, there are more than enough kids, but not enough.
I didn't know he was going to stick
There are
that
more.
in.
There are enough kids, but not enough seats. Mayor Bill de Blasio says he's got a plan to alleviate the seat setback in his universal pre-K. But lawmakers in Albany not biting. That's next.